So this video is going to be sort of like a little run through of clips from Sweden and Finland, and then I'm going to come back in later and discuss like what we learned about the education system there in Sweden and Finland when I was there, and my own personal conclusions about why the education system works and why it may or may not work for America's education system. So check it out. So when we actually got into Helsinki, the first thing we did was, before we even hit up the hotel, we went to the middle of Helsinki and took a tour. So we started out at this square where there is an evangelical Lutheran church, and that is the big pillared building, and you can kind of see like the whole square as I pan around. The building was really gorgeous, and the pillars were very Greek, Roman, either or really. This is just one of the many beautiful churches we got to see. Following that, we actually saw another church, this red brick church right here, and it was super gorgeous and really tall, and the architecture was just absolutely cool, and I really love brick churches personally, so I thought it was like a really classic touch. So following that, we actually went over to the harbor, and the harbor was really pretty, but very, just a little simple. And after that, I didn't take much else video of the tour just because I was really tired, but we did hit up Hesburger, which is like the McDonald's of Finland. The next day in Helsinki, we actually got to finally get a look at some of their education system. This is just a little bit of clips from like us in the building and going in to do the lecture. I didn't actually record the whole lecture because I didn't want to be rude and I really wanted to focus on what they were saying, but I will talk about some of the stuff that you learned later. Then we went and we actually stumbled upon some kind of band from one of the political buildings, so you can hear a little bit of that right now. After that, we went into a town shopping center. We grabbed some local fare, some fish and chips, I believe, or maybe chicken and chips. Honestly, not a huge fish person. And we also grabbed some interesting little trinkets, such as this old man right here. An old lady was selling a bunch of these little puppets, and our friend got one. His name is Bert. Following that, we went to another gorgeous, and I mean gorgeous, red brick church. The chapel is of the Orthodox faith, and it's reminiscent of the old Russian rule, and it's called Uspensky Cathedral, and you can see some of the inside. I took a lot of video of the gorgeously tall ceilings, the really pretty candles, and then we went on another tour and we saw yet another church. Just some video of us walking over there, having some fun, learning about stuff. But eventually we made our way to the church, which was this church that they actually dynamited through the rock and created like an underground church of sorts, and all the rock that you see on the walls is actually rock that they got from dynamiting into the ground. And let's listen to some of the music they were playing now. After that, we went and saw some art installments. It was dedicated to the national Finnish music composer Gene Sibelius. Sibelius. It's 600 steel pipes welded together into an amazing wave-like pattern, and you can see it from a distance, and you'll see it up close. You see like how gorgeous it is to actually stand under. It was really, really pretty. After that, me and my friends decided to check out some of the nightlife while we had the chance, so we took a not that long 30-minute walk from our hotel into the middle of downtown, and that is one thing I love about Europe, is how incredibly small everything is, especially when you're coming from Texas. So on our way there, we saw some cool stuff, and then we made it to a club, and this is just like a little clip of it, just us checking out some of the local nightlife. It was actually pretty dead, and we just spent the night chatting mostly and dancing. The next day, we went to an actual school in Helsinki instead of going to the Ministry of Education building, which is what we did last time. Didn't get a whole lot of video in the actual school, just because, again, I was trying to be respectful and really pay attention to the tour, but it was really cool. We actually got to talk with a lot of Finnish students, and they all pretty much speak English, so it was really easy to communicate. Following that, we went to a art museum, modern art museum, and it's just a little fast clips of everything that we did and all the cool art that we saw, and it was a ton of fun. I truly loved all of the art that was there. I actually felt very inspired and motivated by some of it.
It's really pretty out here. It's amazing.
After that, we left. We got on the overnight cruise from Helsinki to Stockholm. This is some clips of the islands in the channel between Helsinki and Stockholm. As we leave Helsinki, you see a lot of these pretty islands. People were living on them and waving to us, and it was really nice and really gorgeous, actually. This is some of those things I didn't really know about. In Europe, they make you put smoking kills, or at least in Finland they do. They make you put smoking kills on the box of cigarettes. This is just some of the store stuff that they had on the ship. It had a lot of tax-free chocolate and cigarettes and booze, kind of an odd combination, or maybe a great combination, depending on who you ask. So we're finally in Stockholm. This is our first clip getting off the ship, and you can see the ship actually pan around. You'll see it. And it was really, really pretty. It was just like a little colder, actually, I thought, but it was nice. It was really pretty just landing there and getting to look over and see kind of a wide view. One of the first things we did was we actually went to see this ship that had sunk in. We actually saw this ship called the Vasa ship, and it was a warship that was built between 1626 and 1628, and actually sank on a maiden voyage in 1628 due to a structural issue where it was sort of like too tall and then not weighted properly on the bottom, so it just sort of toppled over. They made efforts to recover parts of it in the 1650s, but it was actually not recovered, or it was lost, and then it was found again in the 1950s, and actually they managed to float it all the way to the top. So this is the real ship, not rebuilt, and it's almost, I think they said 98%, somewhere in that range, original. So it is pretty amazing to get a really good look at how things were. And they also said that the bodies they found on the ship from the men who died during the sinking, they got really good information about like what people ate and what they looked like and what they dressed like, because they had been preserved in the water for so long. So that was pretty cool. After we visited the Vasa Ship Museum, we went to a regular Stockholm museum, just checked out some of the Viking stuff. There were lots of skulls in this museum, but my camera actually ended up dying, so I didn't get to record all of it. But I got a few clips of us just sort of walking around, checking everything out, and then we did like an actual tour. Following that, we had some dinner, and that was nice. It was really good Italian food. You can't go wrong with Italian. And then me and my friend checked out some more local nightlife. It was a ship, there was a club, it was floating in the middle of Stockholm harbor, so it was a really pretty view, and lots of fun dancing. And this is the final day, which I didn't get a lot of clips on the final day because it was just such a busy day. But we did go to a school in Stockholm, and we got to check out some of the art projects here. We got to talk to about, what Swedish school is like. We got to ask questions about how it compares to American schools, and it was actually a lot of fun. We rounded off the day by shopping a little bit in a main square of Stockholm, which I give you a little roundabout view of everything right here. And then at the end of the night, we checked out the nightlife one more time and went to the famous ice bar, which is a bar made entirely of ice in Stockholm. And it was very close to our hotel, which was the Comfort Hotel Stockholm. It was just super close, and we just got to go and have fun. It was not all that expensive, and it's definitely something like, it's just such a oddity. I walked all around. It was very small, smaller than I expected it to be, but I walked all around, and you can just see we're all having fun, and literally everything down to the cups was made of ice. So it was totally awesome, and definitely something you should see if you're ever in Stockholm. I hope you all enjoyed my little video on what I did and the things I saw in Finland and Sweden. Right now I'm just going to talk about the education system and what I took from it, because that's mostly what we were studying when we were there as my tour group. And I'm going to talk about the education systems of both countries. They're very similar, so I'm probably going to talk about them as a unified type deal. And then I'm going to talk about whether those concepts can be applied in America. I think there were 3 things that really made the difference. The first one, I'm going to start from smallest to largest, I guess. The first being that competition between kids is not really a big thing like it is here in America. I mean, I can think back to elementary school and we having reading competitions. There's always a competitive edge. You're always trying to get better grades than the other person. We have a ranking system that literally pits students what was your rank? What was your rank? In Finland, the teacher said that they usually put students who might not be so good at math with students who are really good at math so that those students can help the other students, and the mentality is if everyone's succeeding, then it's better off for everyone. It encourages them to help each other, which ultimately does lead to the bettering of everyone, because when you tutor someone, you learn things, and when you're getting tutored, obviously you learn things. It is better for everyone. The second thing is the homework. They said in Sweden that an hour of homework would be considered a lot, and that just blew my mind. I remember people doing homework during lunch in high school. I was a nanny for a while, and the middle schooler that I watched over would do all of her homework during lunch and then still come home and have homework. She would most of the time try to get it all done during lunch, but then she would come home and still sometimes have some. The fact that our students feel like they have so little time they'd rather work on homework than eat is kind of like unhealthy. The next thing, the biggest thing, I think, is the guidelines for teachers. Their books there were like this thick, and that is all the subjects. Like, think about that. Like, this thick, all the subjects. This is usually one subject, maybe thicker in America. This thick, all the subjects covered in it. It's a guidelines for teachers, and instead of being like they need to learn this formula, this word, this thing, it's more about learning concepts. Like, they have to understand things, not just like learn it or memorize it. They need to be able to understand it. It gives so much power to the teachers as individuals and the school as individual entities to make decisions about how the students will learn these subjects and these concepts. It isn't like they have to learn them, oh, you have to teach them in this way. It's like you teach them however they can learn it. If you have students that learn things differently, teach them in ways that are different. I remember being taught to like never read ahead in class, and like another thing they do is like they focus on individuating a student's talent. Like, if a student has an aptitude in something, they give them more advanced work. They don't try to stop them and say you need to stay with the class. They help them to continue to grow their passions. It's just so much power put back into the hands of the teachers and the schools, and that really makes all the difference. But the problem that I think we have in our culture is that we're a very divided culture. I talked to a young man who was I shouldn't say young man, he was my age, he was 19. I talked to a guy who was my age, who was still in high school because they can take like an extra year there, so he was 19 and still in high school. And he said that our two-party system just astounds him because they have like 5 main parties there, and it's like every party has a say in some way, shape, or form in their politics. And the fact that we have 2 parties creates a culture that's just so black and white. There's just so little gray area. It's just this or that. And when you have that kind of divisive culture, I don't think it's possible to agree on education reform, and that's why we have so little of it. I think that these concepts that I listed are very simple, and they don't clash against any moral or religious issues. So I would like to think that maybe if politicians looked more to these countries, or if we had people in education councils, boards, whatever, that were actually to actually studied education or worked in education, then we would see these things happening. But until we change our politics, we can't change our schools, and ultimately to do any of that, we need to change our culture. So yeah, that was what I took from being in Finland and Sweden, and I hope you guys enjoyed my video, and be on the lookout for the next one. Bye.